What is the role of government? Not just the American government, I mean all government. Why did humanity organize itself into socioeconomic systems? I need you to think about this fundamentally because there has been a steady rise in the global cost of living. Homelessness in America has trended upward since 2016. Over 100 food processing plants have been closed or destroyed within the last 2 years, and over 10 million illegal migrants have crossed into America since the last election. Many of them military-aged men from China, Russia, and the Middle East. California and New York have deliberately sabotaged their own economies, leading to a diaspora of millions from the very places most ideal for foreign occupation. Russia and China are running psychological operations against our politicians, social media influencers, and independent news media. People like Destiny, Tim Pool, and those of the Daily Wire. Syngenta Group, a European Union and Chinese state-owned agrochemical company, have long-standing contracts with American farmers to spray brain and endocrine-disrupting chemicals into our food supply. Chemicals directly linked to issues of gender identity, homosexuality, and symptoms of ADHD. And finally, Biden is seemingly sparing no expense on starting World War III with Russia through Iran and Ukraine. This isn't conspiracy theory any longer. The world's elite have openly declared war on the U.S. by financing its destruction, and America's adversaries have been incentivized to participate.
Now, in the past, many tyrants and governments wanted to do it, but nobody understood biology well enough, and nobody had enough computing power and data to hack millions of people. Neither the Gestapo nor the KGB could do it. But soon, at least some corporations and governments will be able to systematically hack all the people. We humans should get used to the idea that we are no longer mysterious souls. We are now hackable animals. Humans are now hackable animals. You know, the whole idea that humans have, they have this soul or spirit and they have free will and nobody knows what's happening inside me. So whatever I choose, whether in the election or whether in the supermarket, this is my free will, that's over. It's often said that you should never allow a good crisis to go to waste because a crisis is an opportunity to also do good reforms that in normal times people will never agree to, but in a crisis, you see, we have no chance.
The narrative of the World Economic Forum is that the global economy must be transformed from a capitalist shareholder model to a socialist stakeholder model, where no one owns anything, diversity and inclusion are enforceable, environmental threats are punishable, and all technological innovation is controlled by a small group of political and economic leaders at the top to ensure minimal damage to the environment and to maximize equity among stakeholders. To achieve this objective, however, they're trying to replicate the Maoist cultural revolution that led to the deaths of over 20 million people in China. They're impoverishing countries within the United Nations on purpose, before they collapse the U.S. petrodollar to bring about civil unrest and mass genocide. They are using the principles of scarcity and terror management theory to force people into different cultural groups and fight for resources. That's why they're not prosecuting criminals. We cannot let this happen, especially when there is far more viable solutions to poverty, equity, and environmental sustainability. Most nations stockpile guns, nuclear, and biological weapons. Though we have done similarly with our nukes and firearms, our most powerful weapon was never a tool of war. It has been and will always be our shared cultural values of individual freedom, liberty, and justice for all. Freedom, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness transcend both time and national borders. Everyone on the face of the planet yearns for the rights we have as citizens, and everyone wishes they could organize at a moment's notice when those rights are being taken away. There is a reason protesters in other nations fly our flag on their streets, so it is in this respect. I say we work together with these migrants to wage our own economic war against our shared oppressors. These will be the tools of our warfare. This is a vertical garden by a business called Bowery Farm. This particular garden produces 80,000 pounds of produce every week. That's an automated vertical farm that produces 476 pounds of food every hour. They're not even using the space or power efficiently. When combined with aquaculture, this vertical farm can produce a never-ending supply of fish, fruits, vegetables, crustaceans, and spices. We can even raise chickens with no impact on the environment. Now look at these. These are inexpensive living quarters that are grouped together within dorm rooms to create shared living spaces. Loneliness is an epidemic in America. This could be the solution. For those with family, there are compact family living quarters as well. Both of these are inexpensive to build and highly sustainable. They could end homelessness and poverty on a global scale if implemented correctly. Next on our list is a photoacoustic imaging machine. It uses a non-invasive combination of infrared lasers and ultrasound to map out the entire human anatomy. With your investment, we will build a high-fidelity full-body scanner that can detect diseases at the cellular level before they become life-threatening. Checkups would last no longer than 10 minutes, and your vital statistics would let you know when you need to see a doctor. Finally, this is a drill created by Robert M. Potter. It utilizes superheated steam to fracture rock in a matter of seconds. This particular application is for geothermal drilling, but we have improved upon the design. When built correctly, the drills never need to be replaced, and when mounted in series, they can excavate several miles of rock in a matter of weeks. In the coming months, we're planning to release a mount for pickup and utility vehicles. If you own land, you will be able to carve out your own bunker with minimal risk of cave-in. There are several additional tools we're omitting for patenting purposes, but this should get the ball rolling. Our plan is simple and it comes in two parts. The first part of our plan is to use these tools to build vertical farms, capsule hotels, and clinics beneath the streets of suburban cities and towns. Our focus is primarily in areas with significant levels of poverty. The idea is that by placing this infrastructure beneath residential areas, food is produced locally and is managed by the people that live there. It also provides the public with a safety net should the economy lead to a rise in homelessness and unemployment. The second part of this plan is to convert abandoned mines and caves into fully self-contained underground cities. These subterranean communities would initially have the purpose of providing free studio apartments for those that are homeless or in poverty. However, with the inherent constraints on space and cost of maintenance, we would empower each community with the tools and machines necessary to expand the underground communities they live in. The resources mined and processed during this expansion would then be used in the first part of this plan. So what's important here is that it's a closed-loop system, where each community supports each other's efforts and other cities like it. The best part is, because this infrastructure is entirely underground, the impact on our environment is net zero. The globalists have convinced many people that the Great Reset is about environmental sustainability, that CO2 levels are too high and our survival as a species hinges on their ability to manage our lives. With this practice of building underground infrastructure, we undermine that entire argument. 12 strategic locations of interest have been selected for the construction of underground cities. These are, in no particular order: Alabama, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Arkansas, Arizona, Maine, Nevada, New Mexico, and South Dakota, and finally, Texas, Alaska, and Wyoming. Alabama, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia were chosen for their abundance of iron, aluminum, and salt, quintessential minerals in the creation of rebar and automated vertical farming systems. Arkansas was chosen for its minerals of limestone, gypsum, salt, and clay, major components in the manufacture of biopolymer cement and media for aquaponics. Texas was chosen for its silica deposits, as well as being a major hub for immigration, both legal and illegal. The other states were chosen because there is enough gold, silver, copper, and lithium there to pay off all of America's debt 11 times over. Most importantly, however, each and every one of these locations, save for one, shows up on a Feeding America map for people suffering from food insecurity. Remember, this isn't necessarily about mining resources, but the propagation of food sovereignty and subterranean living. By building this infrastructure underground, we give direct control of our nation's food supply to the people that consume it. We also cut down on CO2 emissions from trucking and free up millions of acres in farmland that has been used to poison the public with endocrine-disrupting chemicals since the 1980s. Humanity lives in the troposphere of this planet, and with its propagation, forests are cut down and replaced with farms or architectural marvels. If humanity builds their cities beneath the surface of Earth, however, then the forests that grow above them will ensure CO2 levels never become life-threatening. This probably doesn't mean a whole lot to most people with a mindset of economic survival, but to those that unwittingly supported the agenda of the World Economic Forum and stayed silent when they talked about a global socialist utopia where innovation is stifled and everyone is oppressed, this is a much better solution to climate change. Now, in the beginning of this video, we asked you, what is the purpose of government? Have you figured it out yet? It's sovereignty. It's the safeguarding of sovereignty. Food sovereignty, water sovereignty, housing sovereignty, medical sovereignty, communication sovereignty, educational sovereignty, economic sovereignty. We're not talking about pay-to-play either. We're talking about true sovereignty. When a nation cannot provide the very basic for its citizens, it harms its own military and weakens itself to corruption. And a corrupt government is not a government at all. It is an anathema. There is a tribe in southern Africa called the San. The people there are largely uneducated and primitive, foraging and hunting for food, water, and other basic necessities for their survival. Most importantly, however, they share their resources freely amongst the tribe and there is no corruption amongst leaders. The San people lead a life of leisure and freedom, and they've existed for over 140,000 years. Now, with all our extensive knowledge and technological advancements in automation, what does that say about the United Nations? What does that say about America? The fact that you think and feel emotions independently dictates that you should be able to act and learn independently, whether it is in your best interests or not. What that also means is that the prime directive of every law passed by a government should be the enhancement of education and the promotion of individual freedom for all of its citizens. That is, so long as it does not impede the freedom, education, or health of others. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reports that there were over 16 million people working in the healthcare industry in 2020. Each of them went to work to support their families and maintain the lifestyle their education afforded them. With the release of the coronavirus, however, their ability to sustain their family and lifestyle was placed in jeopardy. The hospitals that had employed them forbid them from talking about ivermectin. Because of this lack of sovereignty, it led to the deaths of over 7 million people. Imagine what would have happened if all 14 million doctors and nurses retreated underground in protest. So let's summarize what will take place upon successful funding of this project. Number 1, we begin hiring social media experts. This may sound superfluous, but public transparency and participation are paramount for this project. The social media experts have the responsibility of broadcasting every aspect of this movement towards sovereignty, from contract development and negotiations to excavation and installation of infrastructure. If a transaction or contract does not take place on camera before millions of people, it isn't legitimate, and all parties involved are held financially responsible. Once facilities have been set up, they will also have the responsibility of giving an unbiased report of public health, economic activity, and educational standards from a third-party auditor. 2. We begin hiring staff in the form of legal teams, engineers, and foremen. These legal teams will help develop contracts with various local governments and homeowners who live within a city or town. The engineers will ensure structural integrity and safety of all projects at each location. The foreman will ensure proper OSHA standards are met and that everyone's properly trained. Number 3. We purchase land in either Idaho, Wyoming, Utah, or Montana. This property will serve as a manufacturing facility for our steam excavation equipment, as well as the creation of our mobile smelting and fabrication tools. There is a lot of plastic and metal waste in America, and with the right tools, we can transform those inexpensive materials into parts for automated vertical farms. 4. We hire drivers with commercial driver licenses and send out convoys to cities and towns that have signed up to transform their communities into sovereign cities. There is more nuance to this, but you understand. Once operations get moving at a comfortable pace, we will set up operations in other countries. It is our hope to free as much people from hunger, homelessness, and economic oppression as possible.